So this is kind of a tag. Okay, so my sister and I, first of all, hi, it's been a while. Life happened, and today we are inside of my room because outside it's been raining. It's been kind of weird, so we're doing it inside of the room today. But my sister had found the other day like this template that you use for like Instagram stories that has like some bookish questions, and she's going to be asking them, like translating them on the fly, because that's how awesome she is. She's going to be doing it, and then we're gonna hang out. And if you want to give me, I'm going to have like the questions on the description, and then you can give me your answers, or like feel yourself tagged. Just let's do this.
Tell me one book that has more than 500 pages.
The Way of Kings. Brandon Sanderson. You can just pick any in the Brandon Sanderson book, but let's just go with The Way of Kings.
One book that has become a film.
A film, The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. One book that you like
A
that
book
has numbers at his title.
Six of Crows. Very recently. I just learned that I do actually like that book. We're gonna have a review, by the way. It's gonna be somewhere up here. Just go click on it. It's gonna be great.
Now tell me one book that is written by a woman.
Let's just go with Vicious by Victoria Schwab, because Leigh Bardugo also, but Vicious is a really good book.
And tell me one book that you love or that you want to read that has been published this year.
That I love or that I want to read, or both?
Any one of them.
Any one of them? Okay, so a book that I want to read that's going to be published this year is the 9th Outlander book. And I forgot the name of it right now, but I'm going to have a picture here somewhere. And I'm so excited because Outlander is like I know it's technically not the most like young person book. I don't care. I love that book. Like, it's everything. I think I heard somebody say like on a YouTube video that it was like the Karen book or something, or maybe it was a TikTok. It was probably a TikTok. But I disagree. It's just a good book. It's great.
Now tell me a book that you like or that you want to read, that you know, that the title is just one word.
One word. Uprooted. Never read it. I don't actually feel like reading it, but I was looking at some reviews of it yesterday. And that was the first one that came to my mind. So Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I think that's her name. Yeah.
Okay, and now tell me a book that has more than 100 years old.
But the Bible.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and you could also say like the Iliad or something, but the first one that comes to mind that I have read is the Bible.
It's really old.
It's a really old book.
One book that is based on real facts. Based on real facts.
Does it have to be fiction or non-fiction?
Neither of them works.
I guess, I could say Pet Sematary, that from Stephen King, because it's not technically based on the idea came from him like watching his son almost get hit by a car or something, and then he wrote about that experience, but I haven't read the book, so barring that, I might read it still. I'm not sure. I'm iffy on horror books. They make me scary. But there's also Mindhunter, that's a nonfiction that I read at the beginning of the year, and it is based on like this guy's experience. So
now tell me a book that you had bought or read only because the cover is beautiful.
See, the thing is, I don't have a lot of money to keep buying books just because they're pretty. I would like to, but let me tell you, I didn't buy this because I, again, have no money. But I'm gonna show you the cover that I fell in love with. I'm just gonna be right here. I was in a library in the bookstore a few months ago, and I saw this cover of Dracula. I don't want to read Dracula. I have zero interest in reading the book Dracula, despite my love of vampires. Just not that kind of vampire that I'm into. I like the brooding Edward Cullen kind of vampire. It's just a thing. And I would have bought it and then consequently read it just because it was that pretty, but no money. But I would have.
Now tell me a book that it happens over Christmas.
Ooh. Ooh. My sister loves Christmas. She's already dancing to Christmas music. Like it's not even in September. She's already like, yes, Christmas. Especially the album from Pentatonix.
Yes.
She's addicted. I don't actually read a lot of books that are contemporary romance. Like not romance. It's just books or contemporary books at all. But I did read A Court of Frost and Starlight. That is not technically Christmas, but it's like Christmas coded because it's like Winter Solstice by Sarah J. Maas. So I did read that one and it was fine. It was actually one of the best ones in that series, mostly because it didn't try to be fantasy. Like it didn't try to be high fantasy. It was just like, this is a romance. We're going to hang out with those characters. And I think Sarah J. Maas does her best when she does that.
I love Christmas.
Yes, she does.
Tell me a book that when you read it, you finished in one day.
So many. I'm gonna tell you actually, the How I Was Before You, or yeah, Before You. How I Was Before You is the way that they translate it to Portuguese. I'm sorry, that's how my brain works. But yeah, so I read that book. It was actually kind of funny. I was watching a show and then somebody on like, I'm on this like WhatsApp group chat with a lot of friends that I met reading a fan fiction actually. And one of them was like, you know what? I read this book. It's amazing. Y'all should read it. And I stopped my show for some reason. Started reading. It was like 8 p.m. and then suddenly it was 5 a.m. and I was done. And I wish I could say that's like a one-time only kind of thing.
And now tell me a book that you read it over and over again in one day. Like you could read it over and over again and you could read it in one day.
Oh, okay. That's because I don't think I could even read Before You over and over again in one day. But like a book that I would read again right now. Just go throughout. Okay. I could read again. You know what? I think I could read A Discovery of Witches again in just one sitting. Because I did it the first time. It was basically one sitting. I had to sleep in between. But it was like a 24-hour thing. And I just ended up with a 600-page book. But I just like vampires so much. So I think I could do Discovery of Witches again. I might.
Now tell me a book that now is a TV show.
The Vampire Diaries. Did I like? Well, I don't like the book though. I like the TV show, The Vampire Diaries, one of my favorites of all time. But like the book's just, I couldn't get through it. That's bad. But one that I like is Outlander. It's a book, it's a TV show. I actually watched the TV show first, and then I fell in love with the books later. Great.
A book that reminds you of your childhood.
Oh. I read this book. It's called, I don't know if it was translated to English, but it was kind of like the trip to the underworld or something. Yeah, a trip to the kingdom of shadow or something. And it was about Psyche and Eros, and it was like a novelization of the myth of Psyche and how she goes to the underworld and like the trials of Aphrodite. And it was probably my first like fantasy book, but I didn't really see it as fantasy at that point. It was just like a myth, and I randomly picked it up in my school library, and yeah, that really screams childhood to me.
Now tell me a book that it has a color at his title.
A color?
Yeah, like purple or green.
Oh, a color. A color that I like?
Just a color.
Let's see. Peace and Turmoil by Elle Brooks. I got, I think an ARC for it a while ago before she released it, and it has like white and like really pretty purple. Unfortunately, I didn't finish reading the book because I requested the ARC before exam season, and that was dumb of me. I'm so sorry, Elle. And then I never actually finished because it's a series, and I never want to like start a series before the next book is out because I have trust issues because of George R. R. Martin. But that one's a really pretty cover, and I am like, I want to get into it. It's just, I'm scared.
And a book that a friend has recommended to you.
A friend. So I read The Way of Kings because a friend, this is funny actually, a friend of mine turned to me and she was like, you like reading? I was like, yes, I do. I had never heard of Brandon Sanderson ever before. And then she turned to me and one of my friends and she's like, yeah, you guys like reading, so you should read this book. It's really complex. It's about, and then she couldn't just explain it. She was like, so there's multiple cultures and it's really complex and it's fantasy, but it's really dope. And like there's this culture where women like they cover one of their hands because it's seen as like modest to be walking around with one of your hands covered. And then that's what she described The Way of Kings as being to me. If you read that book, you know that that's not the greatest description. But for some reason I felt like, yeah, that would be it. Downloaded the graphic audio for it and fell in love. So thank you, Alex. That was good.
Now tell me a book that it happens in a magical universe.
So many. In the magical universe.
First one is top of here.
Mistborn.
Yes.
Magical universe. Perfect. Beautiful. Darky, gloomy universe, but magical nonetheless.
Now a book that has made you cry your eyes out.
Not to be basic, but The Faults in Our Stars, because I remember distinctly crying for like hours because of that book. And I read the book, and then when I was about to watch the movie, I didn't even cry when you're supposed to cry at the end. I started crying at the middle because I knew what was coming. And then I cried for like an hour of that movie. But yeah, I cried with the Faults in Our Stars a lot in my 15 years of age when I read the book. Yeah.
Now tell me a book of an author that you have never read before.
Okay, so that's a hard one, but let's see. Terry Pratchett. Never read any of his books.
Now the last one, a trilogy.
A trilogy. Hunger Games.
That you love.
That I love. I do love, but the third book is just painful though. So let's go with, see, I wouldn't say Mistborn, but I've mentioned this already in this video. So let's go with Legend. The Legend trilogy. It's a great, she just finished it. I told her to read it. Did you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Did you cry?
Well, no, because I was at work.
But you would have. Yeah, so this was it. Thank you so much for joining me. The questions are going to be in the description. Give me your answers, publish them on like Instagram or something. And by the way, speaking of Instagram, you might as well follow me there. The link is in the description. And yeah, like and subscribe and do all the things. And I guess I'll see y'all later.